Action 6 has been out on the market for a couple of weeks, months at this point. And while I wish I made this review a little bit sooner, this is not gonna be a review. This is just much more of a real experience, a real world usage kind of a review, instead of just the specs themselves, because you can read those specs all you want, but how does it actually perform? And in my case, it is actually even better that it's a little bit later, since, well, this has gotten an update that now it works a little bit better. With the release of the DJI Osmo Action 6, a lot of people said that there's no 8K, which is not the case anymore. And while I personally will never use 8K from this, not because it's bad, but just because I don't need it, it is there for those that want it. I originally planned to get this on the release and have it on my adventures, but unfortunately it was scheduled a little bit later than normally, and because of that my trip was before the release of it. So I was not able to use it in like a real world adventure on a tropical island. But I still got a lot of usage from it. I mean, I literally put it in like a freezing lake, and also I might have put it in my aquarium, as you've probably seen already. So yes, this can be used underwater if you want to do that. And the build itself is, well, if you're used to action cameras, if you're used to DJI Osmo Action series, it is gonna be pretty similar. It's gonna be the same kind of form factor. And the build quality is super nice. There is a difference in terms of build, because now it has a variable aperture, meaning that the eye that is here can be opened up and closed down. It goes from f2.0 to f4.0. So from 2 to 4, not a huge range, but always a nice added benefit, because you can change the aperture, at least a little bit, and that can actually give you a different look in terms of the sun flares, if you're into that kind of stuff. And if you don't have an ND filter, you can still at least close it down a little bit to get a different kind of a shot. I personally use it at 2.8, so it's like the middle, so it's still nice and sharp and still wide open. And while yes, it did get an upgrade to 8K, I personally am not a person that is gonna use 8K, not because it's not good looking from it, because it is good looking in good lighting situation. It is something that I just don't see myself using in my workflow. I usually record in 4K 60 frames per second on all my cameras and drones, and even sometimes in full HD 60 frames per second, so it really depends on the camera, but I never go for 8K, it just don't seem to be needing that. But if you need 8K, you can shoot with this in 8K 30 frames per second. There is one thing you have to know about this though. It is not gonna look that good in low light situation, because it is gonna actually look much worse than 4K in 30 frames per second versus the 8K in 30 frames per second. Just like a simplified version why it works like this is when you're shooting in 8K, all the pixels are getting their own light, right? So each pixel is getting some light into it. But when you're shooting in 4K, 4 pixels together work as 1 pixel. So essentially, 4 pixels get their more light than 1 pixel. So it just looks much better in low light situations. But in a nicely lit situation, it is going to be a sharper of the two. So it really depends on your usage. If you want to use it in a nicely lit up situation with lights or outdoors in a nice sunny weather, then 8K is going to be probably really good. But if you're in a low light, I would definitely steer away from 8K. And speaking of vlogging, for example, this is an amazing vlogging camera because of the screen that you have on the front. And now because you can actually shoot in 1:1, which is the main selling feature for me in terms of this action camera, because since you're shooting in 1:1, it is about the same as it is here. So if you're shooting in 1:1, you can see the full frame on here, which is really nice. You don't have like the black bars on top of the bottom or to the sides, because now you're shooting in just 1:1 like the screen it is here. So it's really nice, and my opinion is that the most important part about the 1:1 is not even the screen. It is just that we live in a world where we make content for both long form and short form, for YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and having a recording that can be used in all different formats without losing on quality is incredible. You see, when I record with DJI Avata, for example, and I have to record in 16:9, so it's like the YouTube style of video, if you want to crop it into 16:9 but the vertical, so 9:16, it doesn't look the same. It just doesn't look anywhere as good because you lose out on the quality. And you also don't see that wide angle look. So it can look good, but it could have been better. Now with this, because it records the square footage, you can cut the top and bottom or the sides depending on what you want to get from it. But thanks to this, you still have a nice quality without losing on the quality of the footage itself. And in my opinion, that is one of the things that I really wanted this for, as I am someone that is coming from DJI Osmo Action 1 and GoPro 11, and while it did have somewhat of a square format too, I feel like this is much better. Just a nice square footage looks better when you want to cut it to different formats. Another reason I really wanted to get this over any other ones is the log capabilities. Essentially, because I shoot with DJI drones, so I'm used to color grading DJI log and DJI log M, meaning that you can really nicely match it to your drone footage, and which I always hate when I had to color match my shots from a drone, an action camera, and a camera. All of that was always a little bit different, but now with this I am able to much more easily connect the other footage to make it look seamless, and it's just overall a much nicer kind of footage to color grade in general. Also, if you're interested in LUTs to color grade these kind of footage right away with just a single press of a button, but actually get the most out of your camera, check out the link down below for my presets and LUTs. You can find free and paid LUTs for the DJI Osmo and your drones. So it's just making this the most convenient camera in terms of action cameras. It is really nicely built. It has a front-facing screen so you can vlog on it and see yourself in the frame. It also has a good screen on the back, records in normal and log formats, which both look really good, and they're both in 10-bit, so you can really push them in post-production. Not only that, it records in a square, so it's much more convenient for all types of social media. You could even talk to it and then cut it out into a vertical or horizontal format from just one shot. You no longer have to record something twice to get for both formats. And also, one thing that is nice that they updated after the release, when you're recording the square format and you have the Rocksteady stabilization on, the four corners were cut off, so it wasn't really a square, it was more like a cross. But now it seems they heard us and they fixed it. There is no longer this. So if you put Rocksteady on when you're recording one by one, the corners are no longer cut, so it's now once again a full square footage. I personally don't usually use it with the Rocksteady for one single reason. Most of the time I'm using this on an FPV drone, and I would rather record in wide angle. Thanks to this, you have the gyro data recorded in the footage, meaning that I can put it in gyro flow and get much more smooth and cinematic style of stabilization, that I can actually edit in post-production how much and how I want this stabilization to look. But for everyday users, Rocksteady is incredible for this camera. It works like a charm. So really depends on the footage. If I was to talk to it, I would probably use the Rocksteady. If I'm doing some underwater shots, I probably will use Rocksteady too. But if I'm doing something that is more like a FPV drone, I would probably just want the gyro and then have the gyro flow do the stabilization. Like I said, it is a super versatile camera. I literally flew it with an FPV drone, put it in my aquarium, put it in my fridge, put it under like a freezing lake, use it for vlogging, like even in harsh, cold environments, even though I would prefer it to be a really hot situation, it still performs super nice. And there's one more thing that I really like that you might have noticed from the shot from the aquarium, because there is a sensor for color shifts. So if it's underwater, you no longer have that different tone, different, colors that you get from having a camera underwater. Because of this actually looks much better in my opinion, making it much more easier to color grade and overall use the footage from underwater than if it was from a different action camera. So this just makes it super convenient, ready to use kind of a setup straight from the go. Like, this is incredible. And I did get it with the adventure combo, so I do have the selfie stick, which I really love, and I also love one more thing about it, that it has been with DJI cameras for some time, the magnetic locks. As you can see, I have it on my selfie stick. I can use it like this. The selfie stick itself is pretty nice, really sturdy, and it's just working great. But you can also take it off like this, and it's so easy. It's like a quick switch for what you have. For example, I have one of these on my FPV drone. You no longer have to screw in, screw off the the action camera and the everything in between. You just have to put it on here. If you want to use it on a FPV camera, I have another one on FPV, so I just take it off from here, put it on the FPV just like this, and it's so seamless and quick. That's why I love the way they made this. And at first I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but now that I've used it, I really love that format. Not only that, I also have the extra batteries that come with this combo, but to be honest, I feel like the battery on this is super nice. I literally flew this with an FPV twice. I burned through all the batteries that I have for the FPV, put it into underwater, did some vlogging tests, and it was still like 80%. So it is a super nice working battery. and you have 3 of them, so I'm not sure if I'm ever gonna really run out of battery while, you know, using it in real world situation. For example, if this is gonna be your main camera, you're gonna vlog on it, use underwater on an FPV, everything in between, then you might want to have those batteries, but in my opinion, just how it works, it is really nice. And I also love, one more thing, the built-in SD card essentially. It has memory space inside, so I was using it without any SD cards. I was just using the memory inside. So it's a really nice thing. If you forget your SD card, you can still record internally, which is really nice. But for example, for FPV, even though you have the aperture, it still isn't enough in my opinion. And because of that, I wanted to have more motion blur. And I got these, the Telesin ND filters. Essentially, these are like sunglasses for your camera. So if you have something like this, as you can see, and we have something like this, so it's like a darker glasses. What these do is they limit the light that is going inside. And you might ask why you need that. Well, if you're flying FPV, for example, and you want that natural motion blur, and you don't get that from your camera, but you see others on Instagram have that motion blur, it looks professional, it looks more realistic and more natural. Because the blur is actually more something like we would see with our eyes, and you can actually feel the speed of, you know, the flight. But to get that, you need to change the settings, and when you change the settings, there is no aperture, so there's not much more settings that you can change, and we need a little bit more of a smaller shutter speed. So if you're recording 60 frames per second, you would like to have 120 shutter speed, but you can't really do that. Thanks to these sunglasses, essentially, we can limit how much light is there and really, you know, play around with settings to our liking. If you are seeing that this is a little bit too strong, you have different sets. You have ND filter 8, 16, 32, more or less, depending on the lighting situation you have. And thanks to this, you can set up the shutter speed the way you want to and get that motion blur. One pro tip, if you're gonna use it on an FPV, I highly recommend getting a little bit more shutter speed than normally, so not 60 frame rate and not 120 shutter speed. I would rather go for like a little bit more, maybe 180 or 200, because there's a little bit too much jitter when you have it on FPV. You know, the vibrations make the footage a little bit jittery, so I would highly recommend going slightly above, still going a little bit lower, but still above the 180 rule. So if you're looking to improve your footage, I highly recommend getting these ND filters from Telesin. And one more thing that I have from Telesin for this is this super amazing looking cage. Essentially, if I put my camera inside, it's aluminum body, and now as you can see, I have like this super nice with a grip, with even this for my hand, a nice grip, and a shutter button on top, which, you know, it feels pretty heavy now, and it's amazing for like if you want to do street photography. You now have a camera with a strap, you have a shutter button, and now this is like a proper street photography kit. And I actually seen a lot of people like this, so if you're interested in that, I highly recommend that. You have a mount here for like a microphone if you wanted to, or for a tripod. So it's pretty nice, and you can, you know, customize it a little bit more. Overall, a really nice thing, really nice in terms of how it was built, and easy to get on and off. So it's a really cool kit if you are into street photography. One thing I noticed is that the photos are looking good, but in low light they tend to be a little bit, especially in automatic modes, they tend to be a little bit not as sharp because it seems to be not as good, and the shutter speed is too low, so it's a little bit, you know, moved. But in a situation with proper lighting, this is pretty nice, especially for street photography. It's gonna look good. And just overall usage, you can shoot in JPEG and RAW as usual, and also you can shoot in like a smaller format and bigger. Just know that the bigger format, more megapixels, is gonna take longer when you press the shutter. It's gonna take way longer, so I prefer the smaller file size, and still a great looking footage, but much faster, so you can spam more photos essentially. But if I had to say, I am super loving this camera. It's really good, very versatile, and I just love how versatile it is. You can really get great footage from this in so many different scenarios and for all different social media platforms. And I actually got this from Megatron. If you're interested in getting an action camera like this for yourself or anything to do with drones, check out Megatron. I'm gonna link them down below. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any more questions about the DJI Osmo Action 6, let me know in the comment section down below. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.